Hello, I'm Mr. Grand2 and welcome to a new Football Manager 2019 series on this channel as we take charge of AS Monaco. Monaco, of course, a club who play in the French League, although reside in the Principality of Monaco within France, are a club that have had, an interesting time of things lately, as we will see. And they're a club that have got a sugar daddy ownership, not quite to the level of finances of Manchester City or PSG, but not too far off. And their approach to transfers has been quite different from those two teams, with a view to quite often signing young players from around the world, but particularly from around Europe, for quite modest fees in comparison, and then selling them on for a big profit. And that is a policy that has brought them some success, but also perhaps backfired. Monaco, of course, before they got really taken over, did get relegated from Ligue 1 back in 2011, but came back 2 seasons later under Claudio Ranieri, and since then have seen themselves amongst the top three teams in Liga ever since, including, of course, winning the league back in 2017 and reaching the Champions League semi-finals in that season as well. However, since then, they have been diagnosed with a near terminal case of Southampton syndrome, whereupon their success, of course, brought the attraction of other teams from around Europe. And as the vultures came in, Monaco were, as is their philosophy, only too happy to sell players. A lot of players that they brought in on the cheap, like Timu Bakayoko, Thomas Lemar, and of course Kylian Mbappe. They then proceeded to sell on for massive, massive fees. Mbappe alone going for a fee that would make the GDP of a small country blush. But this approach did not necessarily yield the fruits that was intended, as the club brought in large amounts of money from sales, they failed to reinvest that in sufficiently worthwhile replacements. And in the season just gone in real life, they found themselves struggling in a big way. Monaco finished down in 17th place in Liga, only narrowly avoiding relegation back down to Ligue 2. They finished just 3 points above the relegation zone and found themselves dumped out of the Champions League. They endured a managerial merry-go-round this season that would make even Chelsea blush, sacking long-term boss Leonardo Jardim and replacing him with the relatively inexperienced Thierry Henry, only to then sack him and bring Jardim back in, who just about steadied the ship in the end. I am going to take charge of Monaco and have a do-over. Can we do better than Jardim and Henry managed and have success domestically this year, getting back up into the top three places where this club over the last few years has certainly seemed to belong? Can we have success in Europe rather than complete and utter disaster?
Can we operate in a more stable way and become the dominant force in France and perhaps in Europe as well? This is AS Monaco.
Now, after that brief rundown, let's have a look through the squad. Let's have a look at some of the facilities, the board expectations, and see how the players are going to fit into the tactic that we're going to be using. I should say as well, this series is going to be in addition to the Swansea series, which, while fun, is obviously quite challenging in terms of the limited player pool available, only being able to sign Welsh players. That's not going to be the case here. We're going to be able to sign any player of any age and any nationality from anywhere in the world, as long as we can afford them and as long as they're worthwhile signing. So, with all that said, let's have a look at Monaco really and where they are. Obviously, as we said in the introduction there, miserable season in real life, nowhere near the level of expectations that they had, nowhere near the level of expectations that the board have in the game, and nowhere near the level of expectations that their finances would suggest. But can we do better? Um, One thing to look at first of all is that the stadium, the Stade Louis II Stadium in Monaco, only 16,500 seats, which is, I mean, sort of on par with Bournemouth Stadium, really. Not what you'd perhaps expect for a Champions League level team. Something we need to look at expanding as the seasons go by. But well-established youth recruitment, good junior coaching, really good to see. We're going to be using a lot of the young players as well as buying players in. Excellent training facilities and excellent youth facilities. That is what I like to see. So if we have a look at the squad then, I think we can see perhaps some of the problems um, that Monaco had this season. Goalkeeper, we're looking relatively good. Subasic and Benaglio, two experienced international goalkeepers. We're going to go with Subasic as our first choice for now, although they are both getting on in years. It's definitely an area we need to improve on as time goes by. Central defence, perhaps an area of some weakness. We've got Jemison and Kamil Glick. Glick, obviously, very experienced Polish defender now. Jemison, a little bit younger. These two are going to be starting for us for now. We have got a little bit of coverage there, but Naldo, he's 35. Maybe not the kind of player we need to be relying upon. One thing to note as well, of course, in France, there is a limit on the number of non-EU players you can use in your squad. You're only allowed to have 4. We do have quite a lot of Brazilians here, which could be an issue when it comes to registration. At fullback, then, we have got quite a bit of coverage. Some players that were brought in the summer, Pierre Gabriel and Balo Torre, pretty good backups. One thing that is interesting though, we've got two I would say high class fullbacks in Jibril Sidibe and Benjamin Henrichs, who was signed from Bayer Leverkusen in the summer. However, they are both right-footed. They are both basically right backs. Henrichs is pretty capable playing at left back, and he's got a fairly strong left foot, so that's where he's going to be playing for us. But perhaps not necessarily the best purchasing Monaco made there. Sidibe, one of the few survivors from the original Champions League winning squad. And one other thing I'm noticing here as we go through the team is just the sheer amount of players here who are out on loan, who would be quite useful. Yuri Tielemans obviously has had a successful time in his loan spell with Leicester in real life. It'll be interesting to see how he develops. Bachelier, a player who was really useful back on FM19. He's on loan at Nantes. Would perhaps be quite useful to have in attacking midfield. Keita Balde, another player who I think would be really useful to have around, but he's out on loan at Inter Milan this season as well. Looking at central midfield, then, I think that's probably an area I would like to strengthen. We've got Adrian Silva on loan from Leicester as part of like the swap deal for the Tielemans loan. We've also got Cesc Fabregas, who joined in January in what I felt was kind of a low-key transfer. Pretty solid player, either footed, going to do a good job. He's 31 though, and his physicals, well, they were never the greatest really. He's also on £105,000 a week, which is a little bit of an issue. We have got a bit of coverage here, a little bit of depth, but definitely something we need to perhaps strengthen. On the wings, again, I think I'd like to bring another player in who can play on the right. We've got Ronnie Lopez, who I really like the look of this year. I think he looks like a really solid player, the Portuguese. He's left-footed, which is always nice. Gelson Martins, on loan from Atletico Madrid as well. Going to be useful for now. Whether we keep him, who knows. We've also got George Kevin Nkodu on loan from Spurs. Bit of a weird one. And Nasser Chadli, formerly of Spurs and West Brom. So some Premier League rejects, and they're on quite a bit of money as well. Bit weird. Obviously, Alexander Golovin as well is going to be playing attacking midfield, a player that Chelsea were interested in signing, but Monaco got him after his impressive World Cup. And then we have quite a large amount of strikers as well. Stevan Jovetic, the Montenegrin, formerly of Manchester City, he looks really good. I think he may well end up being our first choice. We've also got Radamel Falcao. He's had a lot of injuries recently, but a top class striker on his day, the Colombian. We've got this guy here. This is probably the weirdest transfer we have here. We've got a Vinicius, not Vinicius Junior. I don't know if they're related, but he's not Vinicius Junior from Real Madrid. He's here on loan from Napoli, and we're paying all of his 49k a week wages. I mean, he looks pretty good, but I just don't really see the point of him being here, especially because he's Brazilian, so we're going to have difficulties registering him. Given that we've got Jovetic and Falcao, seems a bit pointless, and we can't. It's not like we can sell him or loan him out because he's here on loan. I'll try and cancel it, but yeah, not really the best. There's not many players in the reserves that I think are particularly good, but well, another reason why I think the Vinicius transfer is a bit pointless is because if we look at our under-18s, we have got two very, very good young strikers, Willem Gabels, poached from Lyon, and Pietro Pellegrini, the young Italian as well. Both of these guys, I think, could play a pretty big role in the first team, and are probably going to promote at least Pellegrini to the first team now. So I don't really see the point of having Vinicius on loan when we've got, well, three, if not four, good strikers anyway. There's a few other players in here who I think are going to do a pretty good job for us as the save goes on. Thuram is a player that I've often looked to try and sign. He's got some good attributes. Badashile as well, left-footed centre-back with some pretty good attributes too. And then they're not even the highest rated players. We've got Enzo Milo, winger, who could prove pretty useful. He's quite young, he's only 15. And Noah Masanigo as well. He looks really good, actually. Really good defensively. He could prove very useful too. Maybe even get some game time this season. So we are going to be using the same tactic as before. It is linked below. I'm not a tactical genius. I'm going to stick with what I know for now. I know this tactic is pretty solid, and it's perhaps not shown its usefulness in the Swansea save, but we are going to be using it here. So this is the first 11 I'm going to go with for the time being. We've got Subasic, Henrik, Glick, Jemison, Sidibe, Martin, Silva, Fabregas, Lopez, Golovin, and Falcao. I am looking to potentially, I think, get in another attacking midfielder as backup behind Golovin. No, we probably need someone else on the right as well, and I think some extra coverage in midfield and central defence. See if we can get some younger players in on relatively modest fees. Because, well, if we have a look at our transfer budget, we've got 35 million to spend, which I think is really, really good. The problem is we only have 60 pounds in the wage budget. That's gonna cause some issues. We might have to see if we can move somebody on, and certainly rearrange this a little bit. So we have a look at our expectations. Well, I mean, it's a little bit odd because the season hasn't really started yet. But at the moment, the board do expect us to finish around the top of Ligue 1. They're not really fussed about the Trophy of Champions, but the league hasn't actually reset yet, so they haven't given us our domestic cup or our Champions League objectives yet. But there we go. Let's have a quick meeting with the chairman, and then I think we're going to leave it there. So we've got Dmitry Rubelovlev. I hope that's how you say it, boss. Really, really hope it is. Don't upset you. He's the money man, the man that's funding the Monaco millionaires. I'd love to learn more about the club, although I have just told everybody about it. I don't have any philosophies at all, really. Yeah, well, let's have a press conference. I'll practice my French. Thanks very much. I hope to have a long and successful career here. I'm going to keep the backroom staff in place for now. We've got quite a lot of spaces. I can maybe add in some more coaches. We will have to wait and see. So that's going to be the end of the first introductory episode here. I'm going to go away, see if I can sort out that wage budget, make a few transfers in the areas that we need. And then next time we will, having gone through pre-season, play our first few games of League R. Thanks very much for watching. Leave a like if you're excited about the new series, and I will see you next time.